welcome to Anime Adventures, bringing you today's live exclusive Kamehacon panel. Anime Adventures is the show where I bring you interviews with voice actors and others as I travel to Comic-Cons, to recording studios, and of course during this time as I do online panels and interviews like this one. I'm Elise Baughman, I'm your host. I'm the voice of Pan on Dragon Ball GT, and today's exclusive Kamehacon panel is brought to you by Con Live. This is the company that brings you the experience of live conventions to the comfort of your own home. Now, I'm super excited about today's guest, Eric Vale. He is my longtime friend. He is also very successful in many aspects of the entertainment industry. Of course, he is a very successful voice actor. He is a television and film actor. He's a screenwriter. He's a producer. He is an improv performer, so many things. And of course, in the anime world, he's known for being a leading actor in the Dragon Ball franchise, in My Hero Academia, in One Piece, in Hetalia, in so many great shows. So, without further ado, let's bring on the one, the only, Eric Vale. Eric,
hey. There
you are. Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Huh?
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. You know, you were actually, I think, like my second or third interview on Anime Adventures, so it's great to have you back.
Great to be back. Thank you.
Yes. Now, I should say, as we get started, I have questions for you. We're going to chat about 20 or 30 minutes, but also, if you are joining us live, please put your questions in the chat, and I have somebody helping me with questions, so we will get your questions answered as well. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. We've been through a pandemic. Tell me, Eric, what you've been doing as a voice actor. How do you have your home studio set up? What have you been doing to record anime in particular? And are you back in the studio? Like, answer some of those questions for us. What has it been like for you as a voice actor during this time?
It's a shared nightmare with everybody else. So at least we're all together.
Yes.
But I've always had the ability to record at home, but never anything professional, so to speak. Like, I could get auditions done and stuff, but if I needed to get a work done, I would need to go to a studio. So at the beginning of the pandemic, when everything shut down, I had to figure out, like all of us, very quickly how to turn some place in my house into a studio. Luckily, I have an office. So a friend of mine who is an engineer helped me step by step, turning my office into a studio remotely. And I got it done. I record in there almost every day now. I'm not going to studios. I'm not, if I can avoid going into places at all, I avoid it. And just try to stay at home and work as best as I can. But yeah, the whole office is now my studio space, and I've got it set up. I've got multiple places for the microphone depending on the type of show that I'm doing, and a lot of it has been anime.
Well, and I was like you, I've had my home studio for a long time, but talk about the particular challenges of doing anime, because you're acting like a voice actor, like an engineer, you're matching flaps, you're doing the technical. I mean, that's a lot going on that normally the director, I mean, there's a director and engineer, but you're having to do all of those things.
Yeah, having to do everything, because, you know, when you're, let's say when you're up at Funimation, and you, I mean, you know this, but when you're up at Funimation, you are in a room with a screen for video and a screen for your script. And the director and the engineer are sitting very close to you through a window. You can see them, y'all can communicate, they can direct you and shift your performance as need be, technically and emotionally. And when you're doing anime, it's hard because you're doing voice for some animation that already exists. So the timing has to be perfect. And when you're recording at home, like there's a lag on this thing here right now. It's minimal, but when you're talking about precision, that tiny bit of lag can be very, very hard. So at my house, I record anime in two different ways. I record either doing an online Source Connect session to their studio, where I have all of their stuff on a screen, and do that and record toward them. And then there is another way that I record, which is the reverse of that, where everything is with me, where I have control of the video, the audio, the timing, and everything's on my computer. So basically, when the studio has control of everything, there's a little bit of a lag on my end, so I have to trust that they're able to place everything appropriately. And when I'm in control of everything, they have to do that on their end. They have to trust that I'm doing everything appropriately. And luckily, I've been doing anime for 20 plus years now, so I've learned a whole lot along the way, and I'm able to apply it. But there's nothing like actually being in a studio and working with people.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned you've been doing anime for 20 years, so that's perfect segue, because I know Trunks was your first role. This is a Kamehacon live panel. This is also kind of the official announcement that you're going to be at Kamehacon 3, which is now scheduled for July.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I think I'm like everybody else. I can't wait for conventions to come back so that we can see each other in person again. I mean, we especially as voice actors, we never saw each other in person hardly anyway. And conventions was one of the few ways that we could do that. And now with this, nobody sees anybody in person. So, I mean, I gotta tell you, the second I can get to a convention and see you guys and then see the fans as well, it's gonna blow my mind. It'll probably be an emotional meltdown because I've gotten so used to not being around people other than my immediate family.
I know. I love that companies like Kamehacon, like this, I love that there's been this opportunity to have online conventions and online panels and interviews and stuff, but there's still nothing like being there. There's such, like Kamehacon, there's such an energy. Like it was amazing for Kamehacon too. Like it was just amazing. So you're right. I hope that things get better and that Kamehacon 3 happens in July. So it'll be exciting to actually be there. Now let's talk about Trunks, because here's what's interesting. Here's what I realized when I was thinking about talking with you today. I have heard someone else tell the story of how you booked Trunks. I have never heard your version of the story of how you booked Trunks initially.
So
Which is hard to believe.
I'm surprised I haven't told you. So I mean, I've always been an actor. I've been studying it most of my life. So I was going to college for acting. I was a theater major up at the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. And I'm not a great student. I'll just put it like that. I've done my schooling. You give me an English class or a theater class and I could ace it. Give me literally any other class and I would struggle to make it past.
Yeah, well, and I happen to know from our last interview, you're good at geology. I do know that.
Yeah, I'm also weirdly good at geology. I don't know, that's just a weird fluke.
Such a random bit of trivia.
So I was in college and I failed a certain class twice in a row. I took it, failed it, took it again, tried to get through it, failed it again, and I got an academic suspension for 1 semester. And I got that letter in the mail, and that was right about the time that I got an audition at Funimation. Tiffany Vollmer, who was playing Bulma at the time, was a friend of mine from the theater department. We were in school together, and one night she came to the pizza place that I was delivering pizzas at. We just happened to cross paths, and she was like, "Hey, I'm doing this job. You should audition for them at some point." I was like, "Okay, great." Got the number, called the studio, got an audition, and didn't hear from them for a little while. I went in, auditioned. They weren't casting anything, and then a few weeks went by, I think, and then all of a sudden I got an urgent call from Chris Sabat, who was casting Trunks, and he was like, "Listen, I've run through a whole bunch of auditions. I really need this role cast. Would you come in for an audition?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I did, and by the time I got back to my apartment, I had the role, and I started work the next day.
Wow. And how long, so you were delivering pizza, how long did you keep delivering pizza into, the time that you were voicing Trunks?
I delivered pizza until I I delivered a pizza to a group of dudes who were watching me play Trunks on television. So it was on, you know, because it was on what I think it was Toonami, right? At Saturday night, I think it was.
Okay, yeah.
And, you know, Saturday night's the big tip night for pizza. And I walked up to the door and hand the dudes the pizza. And he's busy looking back here at a television, trying to give me the money and looking back here. And then I heard the voice, the Trunks voice from behind him. And then just clicked. I'm like, wait a second, that's Dragon. I think I said something like, "You watching Dragon Ball Z?" He's like, "Yeah, it's cool." This guy came on, and whoa, and he was mentioning the Trunks character, and I'm like, "All right, thank you for my money, and I'll see you guys later." And left. And on the way back to the pizza place, I'm like, I think maybe this chapter's come to an end, and I should probably focus on the career instead. And I did.
That's great. Like, what an aha moment.
It was interesting.
Okay. So you're watching that has to be surreal that happened.
Yeah, it was very strange. It was very strange.
Oh. And I should mention, as I see it scrolling along the bottom, you are doing a meet and greet. So if people want to interact with you, buy an autograph print or something, they can do that. And now the scroll is gone. What is the date on that for you?
January 24th.
January 24th. Yes. So if you want to talk with Eric, you can definitely do that. January 24th. And there's more information on the Kamehacon website and scrolling down below as we chat.
Yeah.
Oh, and I see, wow, from Pakistan.
From Pakistan, hey.
Wow, hello. I love that. Greetings to you as well. Well, so when you got the role of Trunks, did you ever imagine that you would be voicing Trunks this long? And then even just anime in general, I mean, you've done so many amazing characters on other shows as well. Did you ever imagine what it would lead to?
No. I mean, you know, when you're an actor and you work your whole life to achieve a certain goal of becoming an actor, it's kind of hard to pin down when that happens for a lot of people. But luckily, it was easier for me because Dragon Ball Z was already, when I showed up, it was an established hit. You know, people were already huge into it. So the fact that Trunks showed up the way that he did was a thing. So I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, it's hard to know when you become successful at something. So, and I'm just a worker bee. You know, I do my job. I'm here to perform. I'm here to play a character. So I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. And when I'm done with my job, and I go about my day, and I don't think about it that much. And then it started to kind of stack up. And I had been voicing for, I want to say just maybe a month, maybe less than, when I heard myself at that house I was delivering a pizza to. And then it was only 5-6 months after that I went to my first convention. And I mean, as a fan of,
really,
yeah, and as a fan, because I got cast right at the turn of the millennium. I got cast right when it became 2000, about there, and then, yeah, 6 months later, I guess it was June, I went to my first convention in California, and I mean, I'm a fan of the things I'm a fan of, and I have been to a bunch of conventions and stood in line for autographs from the people I admire. And I did that all my life. And then all of a sudden I was like, they're like, go to a convention. I'm like, oh, I got this. I know what to do. And I didn't connect until I got there that this is me on the other side of the table. I just thought, hey, I'm going to a convention. I get to, you know, hang out with people and shop and buy cool, hard to find, rare things. And then I got there and there's me and Chris Sabat, and walked into the convention center, and there's 3,000 people wrapped in a line around the convention center to get autographs from us. And it was scary. But it was about that time where I'm like, I think this is something that's going to be around for a while.
That's so cool. Let's see, we've got a comment from Karen Penjani. Trunks is a cool character. I always loved that he would try to finish fights as quickly as possible instead of trying to prolong it. That's awesome. And then we have a question that came in too. Is anime harder to record than animation and video games? Oh, wait, let's see. Heath Miller. Is anime more challenging to... Oh, that's the question from Heath. Yeah, so hello to Heath and Karen as well. Is anime more challenging to record than animation and video games? What's your thought on that?
I think everything, all types of acting have their own challenges depending, and everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. For me, I would say that recording anime is the hardest. It's the hardest of, like, prelay animation I've done. I don't do a ton of it, but I do some here and there, and that's fun. But video games, sure, I've done a lot of video games, but anime's rough. I mean, you know this. Like, unless you really know what you're doing, it is really hard.
And talk about why. I know, but I always like to hear other people's opinions. Talk about why. Talk about why it's hard.
Well, it got harder, actually. It's been hard forever, you know. But keep in mind, like 21 years ago, when I was, when I started doing this, we were recording everything on tape, right? So literally, you would record, like, you had a big tape deck, you know, and they would rewind it in order.
Well, and you got started even before me. Yeah.
They when they would record on analog on tape back then, you'd be in the booth, you'd watch the scene one time, and then you'd wait for the tape to rewind and reset, which took time, and then you'd get your take, and then you would have the opportunity to do a take. Then you'd have to wait for everything to reset and rewind so they could review the take, and then you'd have to get it again and again and again, and sometimes 10, 15 times until you got the line right or the scene right. And that was really, that kind of taught me that I need to get this thing done as close to the first take properly as I can. And so I started working toward that. Then when we moved over into the digital world, it became a whole lot easier. You could just reset takes real fast. And I still try to keep that skill there. But that's the problem. The anime, all entertainment, all filmed entertainment is deadline based, but anime seems to have a real crunch because you have to record. Sometimes, say on a One Piece episode, you can have 300 roles that you need 300 different voices on, and that's for one episode, and you've got, what, a week to get that done? So the directors want to work with the actors who can understand intuitively what the scene requires, what the character is, and how to say the words and make them fit and do it right as close to the first time as possible. So it requires like a scalpel, like a surgeon's precision in order to get these things in there. And it requires good diction. Like, you can't have mush mouth and sell these roles and sell these lines.
And how long did you work as a writer at Funimation?
I was a writer up there for about 10 years.
Oh, 10 years. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I knew you were there for a while. How do you think that informs your choices as an actor doing anime dubbing?
I think the writing helped a whole lot because you can, every entertainment is structured in a very specific way. For example, you look at plays, right? Plays have 1 act, 3 acts, 5 acts. But whether it's a 1-act play, a 3-act play, or a 5-act play, the beginning, middle, and end structure is very much the same, and the journeys of the characters are similar. And it's the same thing in anime. Anime has its own tent poles that it hits in episodes and series. And if you watch enough of these things, you can sort of see the baseline of how everything is supposed to be in the structure by which they're telling the story. And if you understand what that structure is, it's pretty similar. Like, I mean, every movie, here's a good example. Every single movie that anybody watches, and trust me on this, when you get to somewhere around the 25 to 30-minute mark, you're going to see something that carries the rest of the film forward. Every single movie. every single one of them because they're all structured the same. It's just all the details that are different and the motivations that are different, but the structure is the same. If you know the structure, it's easier to anticipate what's needed.
Interesting. Well, and you've written screenplays, so we can trust you on this.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I saw we had a comment from Anthony Todd. Sorry we missed that, but hello. I'm very familiar with him as well. We've got another question. What is your favorite character to voice? It may be hard. Oh, okay, Vanessa Rodriguez. Yes.
So, my favorite characters, I don't really have one favorite character. I have characters that I've enjoyed portraying because it's unique or it speaks to me. I've always loved playing America in Hetalia. The character is real close to my personality. So it's kind of like I can be the most obnoxious parts of my personality and get paid for it, which is always great.
That's fantastic.
That one's always been a fun.
And people love you for it.
Oh yeah, they love the character, and I also I've really enjoyed playing Shigaraki in My Hero Academia because it's the first time. I mean, I've played some bad guys before, but it's the first time that I got to play this kind of epic bad guy, and somebody who has really.
What is it about playing epic bad guys, or this guy in particular?
Okay, so I've kind of said this sort of thing before, but this guy in particular, but really the epic bad guys. I've always found the bad guys more interesting as an actor to perform, because when you look at, and this is a general note, but if you look at the good guys are generally good, Bad guys are bad struggling with good. So they're sometimes against their good instincts are doing the bad stuff. You know what I'm saying? And
I do. Well, we've been watching Star Wars, and I feel like you see some of that in the bad guys. Yeah, you see them struggling with, they're on the dark side, but are they struggling to fight off the good? So yeah, I totally get what you are saying there.
It's always been interesting.
Yeah, and hey, Wendy, we just saw Wendy Powell say hello.
Oh, hi, Wendy.
Let's do one more question. Okay. Let's see. Do we have one more question? Oh, we already answered Vanessa's. I was going to see if we had one more question from somebody in the live panel. Oh, here we go. Stephen Moore, what is the responsibility of a writer in anime, especially dubs? That's a great question. I love that. Thanks, Stephen.
Well, there kind of depends on which part of the assembly line process you are, because you have to, there's always somebody who's got to time code the script, and you've got to structure the script so that it makes sense for the studio. But the main responsibility of a writer in anime dubs is making sure that the dialogue that you are adapting makes sense with the original Japanese. So like you have, for example, a lot of Japanese jokes and really storytelling sometimes in Japanese, when it's translated from Japanese back to English or into English, it flips. So in Japanese, a joke sounds like a joke, but when it's translated into English, oftentimes the punchline is pushed in front of the joke telling itself. And it's similar to the way if you look at Japanese names, for example, oftentimes the surname goes in front, and that's kind of the sort of thing in the translation between the two languages that seems to happen. So you got to look at some things that kind of read backwards and fit them, rearrange them so that they make sense. But the most important thing is that you honor the original intent. You don't want to, I mean, sometimes you have to change some things because a joke simply will not make sense in English that makes total sense in Japanese. And you're talking about two different cultures, two parts of the world. There's a whole bunch of reasons. So you kind of have to sometimes come up with a joke that honors the original intent of the Japanese joke without being exactly the same. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Matthew Sides, just wanted to say hello. I'm so glad you joined us.
Hello, Matthew.
Well, this has been such fun. Remember, meet and greets are January 24th. Kamehacon is in July. Stay tuned for more information. Oh, Wendy, thank you so much. We miss you. It's always great to see you, Eric. And if you joined us live today, thank you. We always love these online panels. And if you're watching on Anime Adventures, thank you. I always love that you join me here. Please subscribe because we're going to have more online panels like this. And hopefully we'll be back to the live convention world very soon, at least by July. Well, thanks so much, Eric. Hope to see you soon in person. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.